Hello, my name is Neil Barclay, and I have the great privilege of being the president and chief executive officer of the Charles H. Wright Museum here in Detroit. Welcome. We are open for business. I'm standing in the fabulous Ford Rotunda, whose iconic glass dome is 100 feet in diameter. This uniquely welcoming gathering place represents the domed huts of Africa and was architecturally designed for the guests to hear the words that are whispered from where I am standing. This 55-year-old institution represents the history of the African American experience from the beginning of time to the modern era. I especially want to extend my gratitude to Dr. Alice Randall, professor at Vanderbilt University and a native Detroiter, for including the Wright Museum in the launch of her significant literary achievement. Her book depicts an exciting historical period in Detroit when it was living in the heyday of Paradise Valley. The Wright Museum represents the resilience of the African American spirit, and that same resilience is embodied in our core exhibit and Still We Rise, named for the famous words of our national poet laureate, Maya Angelou. In fact, we have a gallery within and Still We Rise that exhibits the excitement and richness of the Detroit African American culture during the height of Paradise Valley, much like Alice Randall's book, Black Bottom Saints. We invite you to visit the Wright for our upcoming exhibition, Voting Matters, which opens on September 27th, or to visit our website at wright.org. We appreciate each of you and thank you to Dr. Randall for including the Wright in our launch of her launch of Black Bottom Saints.
Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Witt, Senior Associate Vice President for Development at Meharry Medical College. I bring you greetings from our Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Dr. Nelson L. Adams III, our President, Dr. James E.K. Hildreth, the President of the Meharry National Alumni Association, Dr. Louis Hargett, and the entire Meharry Medical College family. We extend grateful appreciation to Miss Alice Randall for allowing Meharry to share in the launching of her new book, Black Bottom Saints, featuring one of our esteemed alumnus, Dr. Alfred Thomas, class of 1937, and a former member of Meharry's Board of Trustees. In addition, we're also grateful we were able to collaborate with the Charles H. Wright African American Museum of History in Detroit, established and named for one of our most esteemed, distinguished alumnus, Dr. Charles H. Wright, class of 1943, a well-known obstetrician and gynecologist in the Detroit area. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we hope that you will enjoy this virtual experience.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Source Booksellers Extravaganza. This evening, we are delighted to be able to present Alice Randall, who is our guest author for this evening, and someone who has worked so very hard to bring to us this beautiful book, Black Bottom Saints. Source Booksellers is a small independent bookstore here in Detroit, Michigan. And while we are primarily a nonfiction bookstore, we work very hard to be sure that we have a broad sweep of information coming from more than one source. So while this is a novel that's not quite a nonfiction, we are happy to be able to say that this is a novel that is based on historical information from Detroit and from Alice Randall's beautiful book, Black Bottom Saints. Allison is my daughter, and she's been the lead in this event. And so she's now going to say a few words about the book and the program. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Hello, thank you for joining us today. We are going to hear a little bit from the author Alice Randall, and she's going to be in conversation with my mom, with our bookstore. And we're going to, after that, you're going to put your questions and answers or whatever inside the question and answer area. And then we'll be able to use that area to do a little question and answer after the conversation. And then we have a really fun experience after that for you. So let's begin.
Hi, Alice.
Hello, it's so wonderful to see you.
Right. Here we are at last.
I'm thrilled to be with you, Janet Alice. That your bookstore is really one of the most important and inspiring bookstores in the country. I know you've been at this for 30 years, and it's wonderful to see you've brought in a second generation, and it's just extraordinary. And I know one of your parents is a librarian, so you're multiple generations, 3 generations bringing books to people. I love that.
It's true. And I want to say thank you for that. But you know, in this business that we're in, every day is an experience, and every day is a new opportunity, such as this day, to bring to our public, to our customers, to our friends all across the country and in the metropolitan Detroit area, another way of knowing who we are as a people. And I'm very happy to know that you have taken on the history of Black Bottom. Other people have done some of the same work, but to do it in a novel form with the history and the information coming through Ziggy Johnson, whose name I always knew. I didn't go to his classes or programs, but I always knew his name, and he was a very important entrepreneur and impresario in Detroit way long ago, and before we even started talking about this kind of thing. So I do want to bring up the name and raise the name of a gentleman that you have been very close to, and who did a beautiful citation on the back of their book, Randall Keenan. I didn't really know him. I know that he was a great short story writer, but in our weekly electronic magazine called Shelf Awareness for the American Booksellers Association, they did a tribute to him for his recent passing, an obituary. And so it really brought this evening to light and to life again with his energy. So I thought we would just take just a few moments to remember him, to think about him. And I read on the obituary that he took so much from Black folk tales and wove into his work all of that through his short stories. And I thought it connected so beautifully with you. And then you may want to say a word too. So let's just hold for a minute and let his spirit come through us. Thank you. Alice, say a little bit about your friend.
Well, I loved Randall Keenan. I have his book right here with me. I'm living downtown in Nashville in a tiny amount of square footage because of COVID and having to quarantine. And Randall is one of the people I was in communication with, and actually we would text back and forth. And one of the things that has honored my book more than any is that his words are on the very back cover of my book. Mm-hmm. And one of the last texts I had sent to him was my picture of me taking this book out of its packaging and saying that I will be teaching it this semester, and I will be teaching it this semester. And actually, with this audience alone in Detroit, will make up for the weird technology. I'm going to share something. I loved Randall, and we were close for 20 years, had many meals together. He read every page of this novel in so many different drafts. And he said to me towards not long ago in a text, "Oh, Alice." I was praising his book and he said, "Thank you so much. I'm delighted by Saints. I had no idea we would get to be lightning bolts together. Who could have predicted? Sad times at the same time. Lost a cousin this weekend, but we will push on. XO, 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 Randall."
Beautiful.
Randall sent that to me in August.
Yes, yes.
Now he's one of my saints. I love you, Randall. We're so thrilled for you.
So for those who didn't know him, and I really didn't because of my focus is so much on nonfiction that I often lose out on the other. And I'm so grateful that the era of this technology and our stretching across so many borders brings new information, new knowledge, new understandings, and new people who have been working at doing this work and working at, as they say, in the vineyards all the time. For those who did not know of him, he passed away, I think, on the 28th of August, which was just last week. And so that's why we're taking a little time to speak on him and let his spirit come to us. So Alice,
Yes.
Here we go. Let's talk about Black Bottom Saints.
Yes.
What brought you to make a book that's, first of all, this beautiful and so intriguing, and to dig around and find this magnificent personality that was so known to us in Detroit, Ziggy Johnson?
Well, I will say, I want to show you this picture. That is my family in Black Bottom in the 40s. Right there in that corner is my daddy. So one, I was born in Detroit, not in Black Bottom, but in Detroit in 1959. And I'm 61. This is my 5th novel. And I say this is a book that took me half a century and 4 earlier novels to get to. Because when you go on book tour, people say, who inspired you to want to be a novelist? And they also say, well, one, that's a big question you get. And the answer to that to me was Ziggy Johnson. That the first writer I ever knew, I met was Ziggy. And when I started going to school when I was 3 years old, he would talk about writing for the Michigan Chronicle. So when I was 3 years old, the only writer I knew, and I was fortunate enough to be a Black girl who knew a writer, was Ziggy Johnson. Over the years, as I've lived, people have often said, I've had some hard times in my life. I had a very difficult, challenging mother. They said, but you came to be so happy. What's the explanation of that? And I said the same answer, Ziggy Johnson and my father. That Ziggy's School of the Dance was for me a resiliency school, particularly for Black girls. That I never learned to dance in those wonderful Saturday schools, but I learned to spot to hard won happy. I learned to be rooted in a Black world of artistry that allowed you to reinvent yourself and invent yourself and to chord with 150 years of Black artists going before you. And also I learned from Ziggy to connect to artists all around the world. It was Ziggy who first introduced me to Rudolf Nureyev, and the Afro-Russian poet Pushkin. So I felt like Ziggy Johnson was always an important figure in my life because he inspired me to want to be a writer and because he gave me amazing Black girl community that was those ballet classes. So I've been thinking about Ziggy since I left Detroit when I was in 1968. And I've been thinking about some of the themes in the book since, for example, 1967, the Detroit Rebellion, since those days.
So writing a book like this, a novel, when I think about novels, and I'm not, as I say, I'm more on the nonfiction side of knowing things, but I try to keep up with the novels too. The novels really help us with the interior of a person. And then you had explained about a balance between the interior person and those external events that occur in their lives. Can you say a little bit more about that with you and Ziggy and the people that you talk about as the 50s? We want to talk about these 52 saints.
One of the things that fiction allows you to do is to address the inner life and to also approach what the story that gossip knows, the street knows, the story that we don't have the data for, but we have memory that engages. And particularly with African American life, this is very important because our records are so incomplete because we were so poorly measured, so poorly documented, because often structurally we didn't have the opportunity in the 19th century to write down our own stories. And so we had to pass them down verbally. And a novelist gets to go back and by interviewing people, by looking at a variety of records, by looking at artifacts, by looking at recipes even, try to reinvent what has been lost in the record and create not a record, but a poetry, a dance with the past that helps us remember and recall the past more completely.
I like you saying that, and I certainly like you in the book talking about Dr. Alf Thomas and Dr. Charles Wright, who are major figures here in Detroit, Michigan. Talk to them talk about how you created the idea of saints, and also let's include Dr. Thomas and Dr. Wright.
Well, Dr. Wright and Dr. Thomas, both of whom are associated with Meharry Medical College and with Detroit, are central to this book. The main character of the book, who isn't Ziggy, the little girl Ziggy sets out to save, she is brought into the world, literally delivered into the world by Dr. Wright. And at a very important point of maturity, when she makes peace with tremendous losses, she walks around the museum, the Charles H. Wright Museum that he founded, and lets go. So I was saying that the novel has 3 different models. One is the museum itself, 2 is the Catholic Saints Day book, and 3 is Thomas Bullock's recipe book, The Ideal Bartender. And so the 3 of these go together to create fiction that will also be reminiscent of Spoon River Anthology or the Canterbury Tales, some people have compared it to. Some people have compared it to John F. Kennedy's Profiles in Courage. But basically the big model is a Catholic Saints Day book, but it's a secular saint. Alf Thomas is one of the important saints. He is a man who, as I said, went to Meharry, was on the board of Meharry when he died. He founded 2 hospitals in Detroit, and he owned an island between Detroit and Canada. And this island is important in Ziggy's imagination because it's a place for only joyful Black life. It's a place where everyone who is being welcomed is Black, and the people who are serving and participating are Black. It's this idyllic island in the sun that isn't Caribbean, but is this freedom land between Detroit and Canada. And I love Alf Thomas because he founded hospitals. I love Alf Thomas because he loved the natural world. He loved fishing. He loved engaging with nature. Also, he was, he didn't call himself a stepfather, but his drink is the married well twice. His wife was widowed and then married him, and he was very actively involved with her children. And Alf Thomas was a person who truly gets to thrive with all the challenges that Black people faced in the 20th century America. He gets through survive to a pure thrive and creates a space for many others to do that, both in science and in nature. So he's one of Ziggy's saints.
So how did you determine what would make a saint? Let's bring that one up. And let's talk about Alf Thomas as well as Charles Wright and how they gained sainthood in the book.
Well, 3 things. 1, Ziggy had to love them, and that had to be indicated by the fact that they appeared in his column in the Michigan Chronicle, and they both do. 2, they had to be closely associated with Detroit, and that typically meant they had to have walked through multiple occasions the lobby of the Gotham Hotel that Langston Hughes had said was the #1 Negro hotel, Black hotel in the world. And 3, they had to know something significant about moving from trauma to transcendence and have helped other people do that. In the case of Dr. Wright, he's literally helping bring people into the world and through the trauma, trouble, and joy of birth into this new world, from the shelter of their mother's bodies into a world that was and wasn't welcoming them. And Alf Thomas is negotiating, he's going to help be a doctor who's very involved in the Freedom Fund banquets for the NAACP. He is going to help fight for civil rights and fight for justice way far away from the territory of medicine. So they are saints because they help other people get from trauma to transcendence. And they are saints because they are beloved and loving.
I thought it was so interesting to have you listen to the way you use the term saints. And I'm reminded of Toni Morrison, who explained her name in the book, Pieces That I Am. I think that's the correct title. And she said the saints were, everybody in the Catholic Church has a day and a saint for them. And so she had Saint Anthony. And as things went along, as she took on the Saint Anthony, she became Toni, which was not her birth name. So I think this interweaving of a religious tradition, a daily tradition, a tradition that's part of what our recognizable people do is really great. And the idea of sainthood doesn't have to rest with one crowd of people or one culture. That when we say sainthood, we've already elevated that person to a level of deep appreciation and deep understanding of their contributions. Another thing I want you to touch on a little bit some more is how multifaceted our saints are and how they interwove so many parts of their knowledge base, their social life, their political stance, everything. And that we often think today a person has one thing that they can do and they do that, but that's not true. Speak on some more about the saints.
Well, one of the things they're Ziggy saints. So these are the saints that he chose. And one of the most radical things about Ziggy is he doesn't look for the obvious virtues. So we have people such as Alf Thomas and Charles Wright who have all the obvious virtues and are just amazing people. And there are other lawyers and other doctors who are the saints. Ziggy has some of his saints are a little bit wild. Ziggy, such as the person who owned the Gotham Hotel, John White. He was providing all kinds of social services and benefits to people, but he also was running a gambling operation. One of the things that Ziggy did was look beyond petty crimes to deep virtues. These saints all have deep virtue and they speak, but they don't all have squeaky clean lives. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't. And what's one of the brilliances of Ziggy, not of my book, but of Ziggy, the character, is Ziggy looks beyond petty crime to people's deep virtue and deep goodness. I say that it's almost a heaven, a Jesus view, or St. Peter at Heaven's Gate view of an individual. One of the saints is someone called Scatterbrain Stevens, who is a drug dealer, frankly. But that's not all he was, and it's not all he wanted to be. And so though Ziggy does not agree with that part of his life, it does not blind Ziggy to the virtue and the humanity of Scatterbrain.
Well, I think your book is so relevant right now. I heard a wonderful program this morning on the radio. They were talking about the need for us to understand the young men who have been murdered just over the summer, and understanding them as having many parts of him, that they're just not a murdered person, and that they are many different things, and they did many things in their life, and that we have to learn to really lift them up and remember all those parts of them. So what you're saying to me just connects so very, very, very much. So let's talk a little bit about how you divided the book up, and the idea of from joy to transcendence, I think, is a very powerful phrase that you're using there. So tell us how you divided the book up and how they march through the book as we
Well,
read it.
well, they march through the book joyfully. Two of the biggest themes of the book are joy is radical,
Yes.
and Black joy is even more radical.
Mhm.
And the other is love is the strut and hate is the stumble.
I love that.
Love is a strut and hate is a stumble. Joy is radical. The book is divided into 4 seasons because it's a Saints' Day book, and Saints, it has 52 saints, one for each week of the year, plus a few extra holidays, are actually 61. And each ends with a libation. So it shows you a way who your saint is and how to celebrate that saint. It starts once a year. Ziggy had an amazing extravaganza on Father's Day in June, in which all the kids in his dancing school would perform. And that's the last day of Ziggy's year. So the year begins in summer, and the saints of summer are all the saints that represent the roots of the Black experience. They are the saints most connected to actually Africa. They are the saints who have the wisdom and pain of enslavement and also of the Nadar. The saints of fall are the saints who experience the most devastating losses and tell us that structural racism can become impossible to overcome. And sometimes we just have to improve the society. The saints of fall are the saints who are most up against it. We have 2 that will commit suicide. We have more than 1 that is murdered.
Mhm.
They remind us individual change and individual brilliance is not enough.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes the society has to change.
Mhm.
The saints of winter are some of my favorite. These are geniuses of Black grit. They're the ones that there's a way to get over even these horrible structural oppressions. The saints of winter are the ones who know how to do it. If you're in a corner and you can't make things better, but you got to try to figure out how to still keep yourself together and love yourself, you go to a saint of winter. The saints of spring are the ones who, despite, get to pure thrive. They include Ziggy himself. They are the saints. They have wonder. Anna Gordy is one of the saints of spring. There are wonderful people, Shirley McNeil, who was a great school teacher and who, with a PhD, Black woman in Detroit, who brought transcendental meditation to the public schools of Detroit in the 60s.
Mhm.
This is a woman up against it, gets to pure thrive. Those are the saints of spring. Those are those Black geniuses, those ancestors who are not losing a beat. But they also include Alf Thomas is a saint of spring, and Charles Wright is a hidden saint of spring. So those are the saints of spring. And we go through all the seasons. And you can go onto www.blackbottomsaints.com and take a little quiz that'll help you figure out who's the saint you need now.
I thought it was very genius of you to start the saints in the spring. It really matches up with the cosmic, the cosmos, that spring is the beginning of really the year because things begin in spring. We know that the sprouts come up, the flowers come up, everything begins to grow in the spring. So I thought that was really genius of you to do it like that.
Well, I felt that fall, I don't know, I felt that is no genius on my part. This is my best book, but it's because the ancestors worked through me on this one. When people have said beforehand that they didn't write it, they received it. This book, which I spent 10 years writing, 7 years researching, 3 years writing, I feel that the ancestors really came through me with this book and were shaking these stories into me. But particularly fall, I knew that the saints that experienced the greatest adversity were the saints of fall, because in spring, you look forward to the summer, and summer, you think it's summer, you look forward to the beautiful parts of fall, but when you're fall, you're looking towards the full loss of winter. In the fall, you watch what you love blow away. Now, when you get into the winter, you're looking to spring again. But fall is the hardest time because you know what is coming is worse than what is now.
Yes. Well, it's so good for right now because all of us are experiencing the pandemic of the virus, the pandemic of racism, the pandemic of health. All of these pandemics are coming in on us at this time. So I agree with you. I think the fall saints are the ones for us. And without giving away too much, I need the audience to know that these saints are people that we recognize, people that we know, people who we've listened to their music of. Say a little bit more about some of those saints.
Well, in terms of music, we have Dinah Washington is a saint, Laverne Baker, who will become the second woman to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Della Reese, immortal Della Reese, Ethel Waters, Eartha Kitt. We have a lot of singers who do bring us music. We also have people that are from the world of sports, such as Joe Louis. Of course, he is a saint. The ones that you think you know, you're going to find out some things about them that you didn't know. For example, Sammy Davis is a saint. Did you know that Sammy Davis essentially had two dads? He was raised by his father and Will Maston, who was or wasn't, and probably wasn't, his uncle. But Sammy Davis had two genius fathers. And it's so much related to why he walks so confidently in the world. So you're going to see parts of Sammy Davis you haven't seen before. You'll see Ethel Waters in ways that you haven't seen her before, including most people don't focus on the fact that she wrote her autobiography not once, but twice and published it.
Yeah. So I could go on with you, but I'm running out of time. My daughter says we are now ready to do the video. Is that right?
We're gonna hear from the young lady that helped to do the museum, and then we're gonna watch the museum, and then you're gonna come back.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Alice. It's great.
It's wonderful being with you, Allison. And I will just say that I know this is hard, but it's not as hard as what you all have been experiencing in Detroit this year.
Yeah.
With the COVID, with the deaths, what we've experienced as a country, what we're up against in this election.
Let me just share this with you and also with the audience. We had a wonderful memorial at Belle Isle put together by the cultural person for Detroit, Rochelle Riley. And there were 900 and some, almost 1,000 poster-sized pictures of people who passed away because of the coronavirus. And I thought it was so powerful and so exceptional that they chose to do it on Belle Isle, where people could drive around in their car and see these posters of people. Because Belle Isle, which is an island park here, has been a place of respite and repose for African-American people for a very long time. So it's quite unique. And I hope those people who are in Detroit, if you haven't been around to look, go. And those who are not, I think there'll be pictures coming around some kind. But it's really part of that idea of elevation from joy to transcendence that you speak about so much.
Well, Belle Isle appears in the novel. A best day in my life, Belle Isle. Willow Tree by the Water.
Yes.
I won't even read, but Willow Tree is about mourning and also but he is going to have an amazing time there.
Okay, we're going to go on now to the video.
Okay, great.
Hi, I'm Madeline Ewing. I'm the museum architect. I'm a rising ninth grader at the University School of Nashville. I'm the granddaughter of a Fisk alum and related to 17 others, and I'm super excited and happy to have you all at the museum today. Thank you.
And Maddie is also the granddaughter of a Meharry alumni, Dr. Richard Ewing. So right here, you're entering the Black Bottom Saints Museum, and we see one of the first saints, Eartha Kitt. Eartha Kitt notably went to Washington, D.C., and when she called out LBJ, she was specifically focused, according to Ziggy, on a lot of the African-American boys from Detroit, Michigan, who were taken from their mothers and sent to war in Vietnam. And she was calling them to account about that. Eartha is our secret saint. Right here we have Robert Hayden, who is the first saint of summer. As you know, he was the poet laureate of the United States, the first Black poet laureate. What we need to remember is Robert Hayden wrote poetically and beautifully about Black Bottom, where he was born, and that his own biological mother was, in fact, a showgirl. Robert Hayden got past his own bitterness to focus on the beauty of Black culture. And at the same time, he used what some people have called the tools of the master's house to dismantle that house and shine a light on Black excellence. All the saints of summer who we see here knew so much about the roots of the Black experience and the great challenges we've experienced. Here we have the saints of fall. We are now at the saddest of all the saints, Tanya Blanding. Tanya Blanding was a 4-year-old, 40-pound girl in the summer of 1967 when she was shot down by Michigan State troopers. She is the saint Ziggy never got to teach because she was killed. She is the testimony that structural racism can be so great that it is a trauma that cannot be transcended. You can't transcend trauma if you're killed in your own home. The saints of fall remind us of that, but they also remind us that people such as Elsa Roxborough, whose father, John Roxborough, fought to let her become the first Black woman to attend the University of Michigan and live in the dorms, that Elsa Roxborough was engaged to Joe Louis. She produced and directed plays by Langston Hughes. She bested Arthur Miller in a playwriting contest. But she had so many injuries, she will die, potential suicide in New York City. But before that happened, she lived, and she must be judged not by her ending, but by her life, what she accomplished before that ending. Della Reese, you all know as an actress, Touched by an Angel. You know her as a siren at the Flame Show bar, but do you know that she was also a domestic violence victim who managed to stand up as a young woman against her abuser and stand up throughout her life with other women who to end their abuse? That is the Della Reese that we celebrate in this book with a drink called The Last Lick that looks like a bruise on brown skin because it has a red wine wash on the brown liquor. Della Reese started off life headed to Spelman or Radcliffe. Here we have Laverne Baker, who adored Detroit, was performed at the Flame so many times, was Ziggy's favorite, his goddaughter. She will become the second woman to go into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame right after Aretha Franklin. But she will start off performing in Chicago as Little Miss Sharecropper because she didn't want to forget the ones left behind. Here we have Lloyd George Richards, began life in Detroit as a shoeshine boy, but he will rise to be the dean of the Yale School of Drama. His father worked on an assembly line. His mother was a domestic servant. He will discover August Wilson and produce and direct his plays. He will also direct Lorraine Hansberry, Raisin on the Sun, when it debuts on Broadway, and Ziggy will be there. Lloyd George Richards, one of our Detroit greats. But none of these other amazing people would exist without the Billy D. Parkers of the world, the breadwinners, the men and women working on the assembly lines, the doctors, the lawyers, the policy bankers, the hairdressers. Everybody was living off of Billy D. Parker and the other people like him. And when they went out into bars, their bars were not just bars, they were also locations of political activism, locations of art, because when Billy D. Parker got off the assembly line, he didn't just listen to music. They would go to the Gotham Hotel and see great art, paintings and photography. Bob Bennett, who will become the first African-American, I believe, on the board of the Detroit Symphony, was a fight doctor, but that's not all he was. He was a person helping fund Ziggy's dance school and getting women, such as the extraordinary dancer Lucille Ellis, in front of the kids, where she would talk about the importance of psychotherapy. And Nellie Hill Trapp was bouncing around Detroit and Ziggy's school, becoming an MC in her own right, but also reminding us of the great Sepia film studios. Here is John White, who owned the Gotham Hotel where Ziggy will live much of his life. We have the Anna Gordy, who will found a record label before her brother. We have Maxine Powell, who will do so much to empower young people as well as Motown stars. We have Mark Stepp. All of these are the saints of spring who get so far past survive to thrive. Here you've got Shirley MacNeille. And when she wrote those pageants for Ziggy, for those youth gospels, she was thinking of W.E.B. Du Bois and everything that he put into those pageants. And Shirley MacNeille, with her PhD, will be the woman who brings transcendental meditation and other meditation into our Black schools. Here is Alf Thomas, who owns that island, who is founding hospitals, who is closing the gap between Black and white health disparity, the gap we are facing to this day. Here we have Ted Rhodes, one of Ziggy's favorite saints. This is the person Tiger Woods said was perhaps the greatest golfer that ever lived, and reminds us of the great golf traditions of Black Detroit. And here is Ziggy himself, MC at the 20 Grand and the Flame, columnist for the Michigan Chronicle, and dean of his own dancing school that's really a school of the theater, actually is a citizenship school. And that little girl in the bottom was me in one of his early pageants. Here is our virtual bar. When you come back to the virtual museum, you'll be able to click on all of these. But if you notice the black bottom cocktail bar sign, there is a secret cocktail that only you, after this virtual meeting, can click on, and you will get the libation for the feast day of Alf Thomas. Here we're having the libation for the day of Bricktop. When you click on that cocktail, the 66 Rue Pigalle. And if you click on this one, you're going to get the feast day of the Ethel Waters, which is called the Twice Told Story, to remind you that Ethel Waters didn't just make music, she wrote 2 autobiographies. And as I said, if you click on the black bottom cocktail bar sign, you get your secret recipe. Well, we're here. I want you to know that the virtual museum that actually was built by that 14-year-old girl whose grandfather went to Meharry, we had sponsorship from Google Fiber and the Schotten Foundation, Neil Krugman, to help bring this to you. All of this art is by Jimmy James Green. Jimmy James Green apprenticed with John Anye Lockhart in Detroit in the 60s. John Anye Lockhart did my portrait when I was 3 years old in Detroit. These portraits, translating the chapters of my novel into 53 collage portraits, hang in the Black Bottom Saints Museum. And you can return, and if you click on any one of the paintings, you will get a quote from that chapter, and you'll find out who that person is the saint of. And hopefully it'll help you get to the saint you need most. As you see, the saints of summer, fall, winter, and spring are in that sequence that we've already discussed. And it's so much fun to try to figure out where you want to start reading the book, because this is not a book that you have to start on page 1 and go through to the end. You can stop in anywhere in the year at the saint you want to know something more about, the saint you've never heard of, or take one of our quizzes and find the saint you need now. The year begins on January 1st, but everyone's not born in January. And the saint you need may not be the saint that comes first, Robert Hayden. We found that a lot of our young Black Lives activists have loved to go straight to Tanya Blanding, because she is the saint that tells them why their work is so important. Here we are back at our virtual Detroit River, and we are at our virtual Black Bottom Saints Museum. That is the silhouette of the city I love so well, the city that Charles Wright, where he built his amazing museum and brought so many children into the world, the city where Alf Thomas created an island for Black excellence, celebrating all that was Black Detroit 38 to 68 that Ziggy loved, a place of Black art, Black activism, Black athletics, Black politics, and Black industry. but the largest and most profound Black audience ever pulled together in one city, where excellence and artistry and aesthetics were defined by a Black measure. That is what I celebrate in Black Bottom Saints, a caramel Camelot. And that is what I hope you will come back and visit when you visit the Black Bottom Saints Museum and spend as much time as you would like there. And I will have to tell you how to get to that. That's our secret information. So now I'm going to give you the secret information. You have to have gone to a virtual tour to find out. Go to www.alicerandall.com. When you're at www.alicerandall.com, pick press kit. We hid it where nobody would find it. Scroll to the very bottom of the press kit after some addresses, and you see some flashing cards at the very bottom of that page. Double click on the flashing cards and you can download the Black Bottom Saints Museum and spend as much time in it as you want. You'll be able to click on and get the recipe for the libation for the feast day of Alf Thomas. You'll be able to find a few other recipes, but you will have all of those great Jimmy James Green collage portraits to explore. Thank you for visiting the museum.
So Alice, we're going to move on to a special treat. So we're going to hear and see the Double Strain Collective. So let's see if they're ready. We're going to welcome them on.
There they are.
Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Hello. Are you there?
Can you hear me? Cool.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, it is so great to be here with you in YouTube land, as we have the honor once again to make another one of the great drinks that are featured in the Black Bottom Saints book. For those who are not aware of us, we are Double Strain Collective. My name is Brian Edwards.
I'm Raven Love.
And essentially what we are a community-based platform in Detroit that advocates for Black and Brown people who work in the food and beverage industry. Honestly, all around Metro Detroit, or honestly anywhere. We feel very deeply that this is something that needs to be done, and we are happy to honestly put our face wherever we can benefit anybody in the food and beverage industry, honestly. So yeah, today we are going to be presenting the cocktail that was made for Alf Thomas. It's called Married Wells Farce. And without further ado, Raven's going to take you through how to build the drink, just so you can make it according to the instructions in the book, and so you get your techniques the way that they should be presented.
Yeah, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is you want to prepare your glass. The worst thing in the world is to have a drink sitting in a pool of ice getting watered down. We don't want that. So we're going to add in our citrus. The drink calls for 1/4 of a lemon and 1/4 of a lime that's been cut into slices, and then those slices cut in half. So for us, that's going to be about 4 of these slices each. We tried to cut them kind of thin. All right. And we're going to get some limes in there too. All right. Great. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our jigger, which is this guy here, a little measuring cup. We're going to add in 1 ounce of our Spanish brandy, or as it's referred to in the book, 1 pony, a little bartender lingo there. And put this right into our shaker. Next, we're going to take a bit of our Jamaican rum. We're going to add 1.5 ounces, or because it's a standard pour for a drink, we call it a jigger. What better name, right? So 1.5 ounces of that Jamaican rum right into our shaker. Oh, thank you so much. Teamwork.
Makes the dream work.
So then we like to stay prepared here at Double Strain Collective. So we already went ahead and juiced half of a lemon and half of a lime. So we're not even going to measure them out. We're going to pour those right into our shaker. So our lemon juice and our lime juice. And then we're also going to take some simple syrup, which is just equal parts sugar and water boiled down into a nice smooth syrup. We're going to add a pony of that, or an ounce. And then we're going to take our ice, fill it up a good amount. A little bit goes a long way, so that's pretty good. Thank you. Now we're going to go ahead and seal this. Make sure that it's sealed because you do not want any casualties when you go to shake this. And you're gonna shake it. Once your arm is good and worked out, your tin is nice and frosty, you can go ahead and release that. Get every drop out of your shaker. And then we're going to add just a bit more ice to this guy here. That fruit doesn't go anywhere down at the bottom. And our strainer on. We're actually going to double strain this. Catch all those little ice chips. Oh, isn't that pretty?
Oh, yeah.
That's what dreams are made of.
Mhm.
And there you have it. Beautiful cocktail.
And just like that, it comes together. Well, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to make this drink for you. If you want to know more about us, you can check us out on Instagram at Double Strain Collective. You can also find us on WordPress at doublestraincollective.wordpress.com. We are also starting a new Twitter soon, so you can find us at, you guessed it, Double Strain Collective on Twitter as well. So thank you so much, and I hope you will make this drink at home and you'll be able to taste how delicious it is.
Cheers.
Oh yeah.
Our next guest is Paige from the Black Bottom Archives. We're going to hear a little bit about how the spirit of Black Bottom is preserved here in Detroit.
Hey y'all, I'm PG. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm the director and co-founder of Black Bottom Archives. And essentially, we started Black Bottom Archives out of the legacy of what Black Bottom was, but really in a contemporary way. So thinking about the ways that Black Bottom residents and families were displaced all those years ago, thinking about the ways that that mirrors the type of displacement that is happening in Detroit and has been happening over the last decade, and wanting to highlight this true stories, the complex stories of Black Detroiters. So we started this online magazine about 5 years ago, and it evolved and it kept evolving into a book club, into a Black business directory. We had an original podcast. There were all these different ways that we were engaging in media about what it means to be a Black Detroiter. A couple of years ago, we linked up with Black Bottom Street View, which was created by Emily Kudos, professor, used to be a professor at University of Detroit Mercy. And Black Bottom Street View was after Emily found all of these images in the Burton Historical Collection of the eminent domain process of in the Black Bottom neighborhood. So all these photos that were taken over the course of several years of each parcel of land that existed in the neighborhood at the time. And put these photos together, blew them up, stitched them together into these really beautiful panoramic images that pretty much recreated several of the blocks, or at least a good chunk of the blocks in the Black Bottom neighborhood. And started collecting oral histories from folks who lived in Black Bottom at the time. And we connected in order to bring to life a digital archive of these oral histories, as well as stories and historical media about the Black Bottom neighborhood. So we're very excited about the Black Bottom Digital Archive, which we're launching in the next month. You'll hear from us. So you should go to blackbottomarchives.com and sign up to be on our mailing list. Stay tuned to what we have going on. The Black Bottom Street View exhibit was up for a few months last year at the Detroit Public Library at the main branch on Woodward. It was up again earlier this year at the Detroit Symphony Orchestra on Woodward for their Classical Roots program this year, which focused on Black Bottom history and was a composition inspired by the history of Black Bottom. And so our exhibit was up for, well, it was only supposed to be up for 3 months, but then, you know, COVID happened. And so it ended up being up just until last month, actually, when we dismantled it. And we're hoping that it can be up in other places. It's a beautiful exhibit that is a way for folks to engage with the history in a physical way, a way for folks who might have had experiences in Black Bottom or have family who lived there to make some connections with what used to exist and to share their stories about how they remember the space. So please join us in creating a space for us to remember this history and creating a space to amplify all the narratives, all the important parts. Really appreciative to Alice Randall and this novel, another way of bringing to life the history of Black Bottom and the way of making it more accessible to people who might not have known about the neighborhood. And so, yeah, if you would like to stay in touch with us, like I said, blackbottomarchives.com. There's a little tab for Black Bottom Street View. And if you sign up for our newsletters, then you'll get information as soon as the digital archive launches, as well as how to submit your own oral history. Were you somebody that lived in Black Bottom or had family in Black Bottom or lived, worked, played around there, knew the neighborhood? You want to submit an oral history for the digital archive. All the information's on our website as well. Or you could just email me. I'll make sure I drop my email address and the website information in the chat box. So you should check that out. And yeah, again, just really excited to be here. So continue to be excited and hopeful about what is possible when we truly honor our history and like know where we came from and are able to make good decisions about where we want to go as a community of Black people in Detroit and in larger ways. So yeah, thank you. Oh, you're muted.
Oops. Thank you so much. We're going to look at a little bit of the Burton archives right now. So there we go. Hello. We are so excited that we're going to be able to hear from Louis York from the Weirdo Workshop. And I have to say that I love the theme song. And so I'm going to let you speak, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
I'm Claude Kelly.
And I'm Chuck Harmony.
And we are Louis York.
Yeah, man.
And all the way from Nashville, well, Franklin, Tennessee, but we're Alice's neighbors and family back home. We're very proud of Black Bottom Saints and the reception is getting all over the country. And I know that we were originally supposed to be in Detroit in person with Alice to do this, but it's 2020 and things have not gone our way. However, since we were able to read the book a little bit early, Alice had the bright idea of having us create a theme song for the Black Bottom Saints.
Yeah.
And I believe I'm not speaking out of turn when I say this is the first official theme song for the release of a novel ever done before. So we're making Black history, we're making American history, we're making art history, we're making literary history here right now. So you want to introduce this illustrious theme song?
So like he said, I guess for lack of a better word, Alice commissioned us to do this piece. We were so excited because the book is brilliant, and we felt like we could add our weirdo flair to the storyline and really give it a futuristic but pay homage to the Black Bottom Saints. So we were really excited about it. We did everything in-house. We wrote it, produced it, shot the video, edited the whole thing. And so we're excited for people to get a chance to experience this song and get a chance to experience this great book. So here it is, Black Bottom Saints.
The theme song. Hope you enjoy.
Everyone's name. There's simply no denying that the factory folk caused a revolution in their own special way. It's crazy to think I used to be in the dark. My history was all kind of vague. I guess it took the Black Bottom Saints to learn about the joy and the pain. So why don't you get yourself a drink at the bar? Raise a glass and let's celebrate the glory of the Black Bottom Saints. I hope that you'll remember their names. Oh, in Black Detroit, the girls and the boys were dancing with their own kind of flair. And Ziggy lit the fire with one hell of a show. The stars came out for a colossal affair. Oh, it's crazy to think I used to be in the dark. My history was all kind of vague. Well, I guess it took the Black Bottom Saints, to learn about the joy and the pain. So why don't we get ourselves a drink at the bar? Raise a glass and just celebrate the glory of the Black Bottom Saints. Oh, the stories said, I hope that you remember their names.
Hi, we're back. Alice, are you there?
I'm here, and I want to lift my glass to PG, to the artists I got to collaborate with, Louis York, who are geniuses. They're being very modest. Their album, American Griot, was one of my favorite last year. They have all kinds of Grammy stuff around them. I love Eric Lawyer, that amazing visual artist who plumbed in new media, and of course, Jimmy James Green. And the artists, I think that a bookstore is performance art. So I have to put the two of you in the artist collaboration. And I think that archiving and digital archiving. So I'm thrilled to be welcoming PG into my collaboration team, but Chuck and Claude giving me a theme song, because Ziggy would have loved that. This is as close as to having that kind of youth colossal extravaganza where Sammy Davis Vivalda, and I want to shout out and just say that, you know, one of the things that Ziggy did from back then, he was a total gay rights activist. He had many, many friends. They didn't use the phrase transgender, but actually many of it's what we would call transgender today. And Ziggy was profoundly political in multiple levels and lenses, and many of our saints celebrate all these different aspects of identity and beautiful, brilliant Blackness. But he loved nothing more than a Black musical genius. So I am so glad I've got Claude and Chuck here.
You're honored to do it.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
So thank you.
I was hoping we could get the bartenders back in. I just want to thank everybody for this virtual multimedia extravaganza, author, conversation, talk, and everything. So this has really been new for us to put all these pieces together. And I have to say to my daughter, Allison, and her husband, Ken, who have been working the keys or whatever it is they do, and to make all this happen. I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's a great way to put books in the center and then put all these frills around the books, and then put the music in the center and all the frills around the music. And put, of course, the Black Bottom Collective show at the Detroit Public Library was a marvel. It was wonderful. And I just hope that we can have it up and again so people can see it. So Alice, thank you so much for stimulating all of this. They're there. We finally got.
In honor of Double Strain, I'd like to say, and then Ziggy, the final one is that what a cocktail gives us is an address to all five senses.
Yes.
This one has, and that is one of the aesthetics of the book. It's what Ziggy got from the show world that he took from the church, but he turned it. And I loved it when Double Strain was shake, shake, shaking, because people said, well, how does a cocktail get music in it? That shake, 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 that serve, and the smell of the lemon and lime peel, and the taste, the touch. We're going to address all five senses.
Right.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
So
Thank you so much.
Because joy is radical. Just remember that. And my other favorite line in the book, be good to yourself, amen. And these amazing doctors, Alf Thomas and Charles Wright, and the museum that help us have the health that allow us to enjoy.
Yes, just a small aside, Dr. Wright brought into the world Allison, and on his birthday.
On his birthday, oh my goodness.
They had a little special thing going on there, you know.
And we're gonna have a birthday. We're gonna have a birthday soon.
Right, right. So just one little word from everybody that's participated. Let's start. Go around. Last word, yeah.
Last word is that now more than ever, as we've been separated and kind of like in our own boxes, it's so important to celebrate art and literature. It's the thing that really ties us together. It's essential work. So Alice, congratulations on Black Bottom Saints. because you are an essential worker. You have reminded us of our legacy and reminded us that a drink and a song and literature are what get us through hard times.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we appreciate you for blessing us with this gift that's helping us through.
Amen. I second that.
Go ahead, the next one.
Paige?
Yes, I'm just so grateful to be a part of this conversation. I get so excited about history and the ways that other people can be excited about it. And I think this experience, this little virtual, this is my first time going to this type of virtual experience where like all these different things at the same time. And I'm like, this is such a great way of getting folks engaged and excited about the history of our city. And so I'm just so grateful that you brought this experience. Well, it's not just in Detroit, I guess. It's not the same because it's virtual, so people can be from everywhere. But it feels good to have it here, to be home, to be a part of this. And I'm just so excited, like you said, to be a part of a new, relationship, be connected to you, Alice, and excited for what's to come and how we continue to visibilize the history of Black Bottom and all the richness of that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for inviting me, Allison.
Raven, are they on, Raven?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we're just so happy to have been able to be a part of this whole project. And these are such strange times right now with everyone being distant and being apart. But thankfully, because of Alice, she's brought us together with so many different creatives, and we've been able to be exposed to so much art. It's just a beautiful experience, and we're so thankful for you and thankful for this project. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Alice. Thank you from Source Booksellers.
Thank you.
This event is going to be on, it was on live
YouTube, but it'll look really nice.
We'll clean it up.
And I will say that out there in the world somewhere, everyone who was alive, who still was in Ziggy's life, we care so much for, and no one was more important to him. She is not a figure in my novel because she's too extraordinary and living right now, but Ziggy's widow, who was known as Baby Jane. If she is here, if anyone hears her, he adored Baby Jane. But Diane, all the great teachers and Ziggy's friends are still living. We celebrate you and celebrating him and this friendship community. And I'm just thrilled to be alive and come home to Detroit virtually. It has broken my heart more than anything that we were not all together, 600, 700 strong in the Charles Wright Museum.
Well,
but we will, like they say, next year in Jerusalem,
that's right.
1 year we will be here. And I'm gonna say, I hear that you got some Meharry in your family. Is that not true, Paige?
Yes, I was sharing, my sister just graduated from Meharry like this year and started at University of Michigan, her residency in otolaryngology or head.
Otolaryngology,
ear, neck, throat, something like that. Yeah, she just started. She just graduated from Meharry. Yep.
Well, circles and circles. Thank you so much.
Small world, small world.
Thank you, everybody.
We've got one last video to show, so we're just gonna go dark to show it.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
What a wonderful evening. Thank you again for joining us. And as always, thank you for your support of Meharry Medical College.
Thank you, everyone, for having joined us on this wonderful extravaganza evening. And thank you, Alice Randall. Know that we have plenty of books for sale through Source Booksellers, and we're happy to send them to wherever you wish them to be. There's that beautiful book. It's just a lovely design of the cover. And you can reach us at sourcebooksellersonline.com, and we'll be happy to get the book to you. Thank you, Alice.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and we'll be talking real soon.
Thank you. Best amazing bookstore. We love you.
we keep working at it.
Ziggy loves you too.
Thank
you.